Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going through the 4 statistics to watch before making any sort of decision on tomorrow's interest rate cut or increase. So these 4 statistics we're going to go through, they happen in September and October. I want to go through them, especially if you're a buyer. You want to look at these statistics carefully before making a decision, especially as well if you're a seller, you want to be watching the next few months carefully. And tomorrow's decision will definitely change what's going to happen in the real estate market. Is it going to happen right away? Is the change going to be right away? We'll see. I usually say it's about 3 months after every rate cut or rate increase that we see the change form after that. So let's dive into these statistics. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you guys everything that I've been looking at, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow at 10 a.m. when the Bank of Canada announces their rate. So follow me. Let's take a look.
All right, so what I really wanted to get into was these prices here, right? So we're talking about statistics. So the first graph I'm looking at here is average prices homes sold. Then we got units sold. Then we got average prices homes sold for the month of September, just a little bit more in depth. And then I'm looking at number of sold at 100% or more of the last asking or of last asking price, right? So let's go start with this one here. Average prices of homes that have sold. So this is the software that tracks all of that. So we're going from basically last October up until this September. Currently, we're sitting at $610,903. You can see it's down from August, down from July, down from June. You can see where we peaked this year. So what happens? This is what happened last year, right? So we saw, what is this? This is October of last year. So 616,000 dropped to 604, dropped to 592 in December, then slowly started climbing and then peaked again. So I think we're headed for that same area again. So if you're a buyer, you're probably entering the best time to buy. The problem is that you're gonna be in the discount section, right? So I always talk about this with a lot of my clients is that statistically, this is the best time to buy. Statistically, right? But you don't buy homes on stats, you buy them on feelings. So if you're looking for the perfect home or the best home that you would, you really want to live in, you might not be able to find it here. You actually might have to wait until this time to find it. And home hunting does take some time. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at homes. Obviously, the good news is if you're looking currently and you're seeing things that you really like, the good thing is also this year you have tons of inventory, right? So if we're looking through this graph, we're heading into this kind of similar price point, right? We're already below the October number. We're at 610,000. So we're probably going to be hitting the 604 and probably even less over the next 2 months. But the good news compared to that time last year is that you have a lot more inventory this year, right? So then making it the perfect time to buy, and then especially if the rates drop, you're going to be the lowest prices over the last year, and then you're the lowest rates over the last probably 3 years, 2 years, right? I'd have to go back and look at the actual rates, but I know we're going to be lower than last year's rates, right? So then we're going to look at units sold, right? So this is the same kind of graph. You can see why they're making sense, but basically the numbers just dive off a cliff here in September. See, you saw actually last year, so they dropped in September and in August, I believe, last year, and then they came up a little bit for units sold in the month of October and November, and then they plummeted. Obviously, typical for December time period, and then they slowly start ramping up as the spring market builds. And this year we saw the units sold peak in May. Yeah, May and June, kind of more like April, May, June were the peaks, then slowly started shifting downwards, and then we're right here and we're below 1,700 sales. August was 1,763. So you're going to see a lot less units sell, and if there's still more inventory left in the market, you're going to have a good chance to pick. Now, if you're a seller, you got to be aware of this stuff too, right? If you're listing your home in the next couple of weeks, hoping for some miracle, like you got to understand what you're heading into, right? You're going to be heading into the lowest prices possible with a good amount of inventory more than last year, and also typically the slowest time period of the sales cycle per year. Then let's go into this one. So average prices of homes sold since 2021, right? So we can see it's a pretty similar trend. Let's ignore this one right here, right? This is the anomaly, right? Let's ignore that. Let's get rid of that altogether, and let's look from, what is this? So this is October. So let's start January of 2023 and go all the way to September, right? So January, slow start as usual, right? If we look here, January, slow start, and then January, slow start. So very, very similar trend. We see a build up until June, May, June is where it peaks, and typically we see a taper off, right? So if we go to May, June, peak, drop, up again, but then drop again, and then up for the October fall market, and then drop off a cliff, right? So we're this year we didn't have a more of a like a steady period. It was really like March, April, May, June. It was a good time, and then it just fell off a cliff, right? We saw that right. Oops, we saw that right here, right? So that's that June till September time period. And this is really important because this is a little bit different, but it's following a very similar trend. So if we look, we can kind of know what to expect. I mean, obviously we saw that in here too. The problem is there was time periods in 2021 and 2022 we were still doing like work from home and like COVID restrictions and all that stuff. Now, the last stat I wanted to talk about, number of sold at 100% or more of asking price, right? So how many units did we sell? So we sold 1,639 units in the month of September of this year. Out of those 1,600, 363 of them sold for asking price or more. So some quick math here. What does that look like? What is that? That is 16, so 363. Just under 30%, so just around 22%, right? 22% of homes are selling at asking price or more. So keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that every home you look at you can go get a deal. Some homes are going to be priced to market and they're being ready to sell, meaning that they are going to either sell at their asking price because the people know the value of it, or they're going to sell for more because it's underpriced and it's going to demand attraction, right? So keep that in mind. And then you can see here, like even like in the peaks, right? Like 822 houses sold at 100% or more. So you can see there's always been time periods where there's been multiple offers or homes selling quick, right? It's just how you market the home. Obviously, this is a big thing. The reason why I wanted to talk about this stat today is because we're going into a potentially another rate drop, which I think is going to happen. I know there's a lot of different things happening in the what do you call it in the economy right now, but I think the bank is kind of being forced to drop the rates to make something happen on the real estate side of things where we are seeing a lot of power sales and bank sales come up more often than we have the last few years, and I think this is kind of forcing their hand to have to drop the rates because they've held them for so long all year. So it's like something's got to give here. I think they say there's like a 70 or 60% chance that they're going to drop the rate. I think it's all but guaranteed, but we'll see what happens. I think if you're a buyer out there, my tip is like you're kind of in that 6 month period where you could get a really good deal on a house and a really good interest rate depending on what you qualify for, right? And if you're a seller, my tip is be ready to act aggressively when selling your property. You don't want to be the reason why one of your neighbors sells, right? You want to be the reason why you're selling. What I mean by that is don't price your property high hoping that I'm just going to wait for somebody to negotiate with me. Nobody wants to negotiate with you. That is done. That is gone. People know that your house is overpriced, and you need to stop thinking that you have room to negotiate. You don't have room. People don't care, and if you're not getting a single showing in 2 weeks, your house is overpriced. Simple as that. I don't know how much more simple I can explain it. You need to face the reality. If you're not ready to sell at the price that the house is worth today, then don't sell. Simple answer, right? Wait until the market comes back. Don't just sit there and try your luck hoping that the market's going to be appreciative of your home. It's not. The market's going to speak to you in 1 to 2 weeks very quickly. Typically within 3 to 5 days. If you don't have a showing or two, it's a bad sign, right? So for sellers out there, beware, be ready to price your price properly. Or if your price doesn't work, go immediately to a price drop on a price that you think should work, right? And if that's not working, then you're still overpriced. It's very, very simple. And buyers, be aware. You want to be looking. You don't want to just look at a bunch of homes that are overpriced. You got to work with somebody that knows the market a little bit more and see what's actually happening out there on the market. And a good realtor will tell you, hey, we're gonna go see 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 homes today. By the way, out of those 10, two of them are probably gonna be overpriced, or one of them is priced high, or hey, beware, these ones are pretty aggressively priced. They're gonna go quick. So if you do like them, we have to act quickly on them. So again, these are just my tips. This is all ahead of the real estate market. Pardon me, the Bank of Canada rate dropping or increasing tomorrow. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna say it's gonna drop, hopefully, and we'll see what happens in the market. But I wouldn't be surprised if they held it either. It's, I know we're very conservative these days on what's happening in the market, so there is probably, I'd say it's probably a 50-50 chance, but I think I'm going to lean more towards them dropping the rate just because we haven't had many rate drops this year, and I think we're due for one more before the end of the year, and I think they'll probably hold it for December and then wait a couple months before they make any moves on the rates. But yeah, this is my update. This is just before the rate announcement tomorrow. If you like the content, feel free to follow along, subscribe if you'd like. If you want to know more or go through some of the stats in your direct neighborhood, if you're planning to sell, just send me a message or give me a shout at 613-863-0873. If you're looking to buy and want to know what a good deal is, give me a shout because I am finding good deals. A lot of my clients are actually jumping on board to find the good deals right now because they know it's a guessing game if the spring is going to be hot or if it's going to be a good spring where they're going to have lots of inventory with, good prices. It's a 50-50. So you don't know what's going to happen in the future. All you know is what's happening now. And if you think it's a good time, give me a shout. Other than that, feel free to follow along. I'm going to be dropping more market updates. I'm going to do another market update assessment of what's happening in October. That'll be coming up soon. We're going to get the October stats probably the first week of November. So I'll be dropping that soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Have a good day.